Good evening. It's nice to be with you again, isn't it, Ronnie?
Yes, it is. And in a packed programme tonight, we shall be talking to a Texas man who made a fortune selling smokeless fuel to Red Indian couples who aren't speaking to each other.
And we'll be talking to an insecticide maker who's just produced an aphrodisiac for flies. It doesn't kill them, but it lets you swat 2 of them at a time.
And then we shall talk to a showbiz chef who crossed Raquel Welch with a packet of Bisto and got gravy with very big lumps.
And also to a man who crossed Basil Brush with a cenopod and got a quick foxtrot.
And then we shall interview a man whose parents were a clairvoyant and a contortionist. And as a result, he can foresee his own end.
First, the news. A man who threw his mother-in-law into the crocodile pool at London Zoo has been prosecuted by the RSPCA.
And there was a disturbance at Hampton Court Maze this afternoon. A party of Irish trippers panicked when they couldn't find their way in.
And the world's most stupid man, Mr. Brodnick Godbolt, was today found not guilty of trying to gas his wife by throwing her into the North Sea.
In the sketch that follows, Ronnie Corbett was to have starred in his own version of Jaws, but unfortunately, the goldfish died.
Shop.
May I help you, sir?
Could be, John, could be. Take care of dead people, don't you, John?
That is our sad duty, yes, sir.
I'd like you to take care of one for me, if you would. Wooden overcoat job.
Wooden overcoat, sir?
Coffin, John, coffin.
I see. Could I have the name, please, sir?
No names, no petrol, know what I mean?
Well, if I don't have the name of the person concerned...
Oh, sorry, his name. His name, you mean? Understood, yeah. Scarlotti. Luigi Scarlotti. 2 eyes, only 1 ear. Never mind how he lost it or where I found the knife. It's not important, you understand?
Could I have the date of death, sir?
Well, very difficult for me to give you the date exactly.
Well, just a rough date will do, sir.
Well, we were thinking maybe next Saturday evening. Nobody...
I beg your pardon, sir?
Well, next Saturday, Bernard Manning on the telly, nobody awake, get my point?
Am I to take it, sir, that Mr. Scarlotti is not yet deceased, sir?
You got it in one. You're very clever. I like your style. Yes, that's right. And that's where you come in, you see. As the undertaker, we'd like you to put the screws on.
Put the screws on the coffin lid, you mean, sir?
No, on Luigi. But we don't want anything elaborate. Nice, quiet affair, you know what I mean?
Quiet affair? What do you mean a quiet affair?
Use a silencer. We don't want anything messy. See, he's a friend of ours. Nothing too ostentatious. Simple inscription on the wall, in blood. Nobody crosses Shorty Johnson and lives. It's just under... Wait a minute, that's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? No, we're going to use your name, I think. Nobody crosses W.F. Black and Son, funeral directors, and lives.
I'm sorry, sir, if our sign outside has misled you. We merely bury people, sir.
Bury them? Bury? Oh. Well, that's a little bit tricky, isn't it, eh? All right, bury him. Bury him. Bury him, safest way. Only be sure you have a gag in his mouth. We don't want that screaming and hollering when you...
No, sir, no. We only bury dead people, sir.
Well, half an hour underground, there won't be much life left in him, will there?
Look, sir, we are morticians. We just arrange funerals. We do not murder people, sir.
Not even a bit?
Not even at all, sir.
It's $1,000 in it for you. I mean,
Look, don't you think you're going about this in the wrong way, sir? I mean, have you stopped to think? Have you taken time out just to think for a moment of the wrong you are doing? I can see I haven't convinced you, have I, sir? Well, look, tell you what. Why don't you phone up our parish priest, eh?
What for?
Well, he does a very good line in Stakes Through the Heart, you see. No questions asked, catch on the nail. Just ask for Ricky the Rave. Come on, use my
Who shall I say told me then?
Just say Harry the Hearse, put you on.
Good evening. Now, many people think that the GPO is wasting enormous sums of money. Well, I've been paid an enormous sum of money by the GPO to say rubbish. Rubbish. There, that's money well spent. But seriously, you know, we at the GPO are often asked, how can you, the average viewer, combat this endless round of upping prices and upping wages? What can you do when we continually up ours? The answer is simply, up yours. Now, I'd like to tell you about the wonderful improvements we're making at the GPO. We know how frustrating it is for you to go into a post office and find that there are only 3 positions, and 2 of them are closed. So in future, all post offices will have 12 positions, and 11 will be closed. And indeed, we're bringing out a new GPO edition of the Kama Sutra. It has 186 positions, and 185 of them are closed. But it doesn't end there. Postal services, we are going to guarantee 2 deliveries. March the 12th and September the 18th. Now, these new services will not, of course, interfere with the regular mail van robberies. And, by the way, some stamps have come up with very interesting defects, which makes them very valuable. Now, there we are. See if you can spot it. Yes, that's it. Too big to go on the envelope. Telephones. The GPO helps you to make new friends all over the country whenever you try to dial Birmingham. In fact, by direct dialing, you can now get wrong numbers all over Europe. Remember, if you're having trouble, ask for the long-distance call girl. Now, where does this get us? You see? Now, note the new agreeable ringing tone on the latest phone receiver. This is part of the whole new range of wonderful tones we're introducing. Now, one is so high that only dogs can hear it. So if you can train your dog to answer the telephone, get one of those. There it is now. Hello. Fido? No, he's out, I'm sorry. Now, today you can dial almost anything. I've just dialed for the sports news, the weather, and today's recipe. There was a slight cross line, but I can tell you that the south of England will be simmered slowly in light rain at 20 minutes to the pound, at a temperature of 97 for 3, and the outlook is warm with parsley sauce, regular 7, West Ham 2, with occasional roast potatoes. Hello, ducks. Yes, I've told you not to phone me at work, ducks. But what about vandals? Well, we are introducing a new vandal-proof phone box. Now, here is a photo of some of them on Salisbury Plain. Here we are. Now, at any moment... Ah, yes. I've been expecting this call. This happens at the same time every night. Hello? No, I'm not wearing a frilly black nightie, you disgusting pervert. Try later tonight. By the way, this is the new GPO hammer. I'll tell you what it's for later. Now, parcels. Well, we take great care of parcels. If your parcel is breakable and precious, the GPO have to stamp it fragile. There we are. Here is the new standard GPO parcel. From now on, all goods will be specially designed to fit these parcels. You'll be surprised how much you can send. Here, for instance, here is a football, you see? Football, and here we have a grand piano. And of course, there we have a bicycle wheel. That's the wife, silly cow. Now you know what the hammer's for. Lastly, the problem of unwanted mail. Now, a lady in Bronsbury writes, I'm worried. Today I received a very frank pamphlet entitled 7 Ways of Getting Pregnant through my letterbox. Well, Mrs. S, we have checked on this, and there are only 3 ways of getting pregnant through your letterbox. So keep your pecker up. Oh, that's 4 ways. That's 4 ways. Well, there you have it. 05. So, if you want to send your newborn baby a telegram for his 100th birthday, you'd better start queuing now. Good night. continued to be outraged by terrible attacks and shocking confrontations during those dark autumnal days of 1898.
I've never been so...
Police seemed to be powerless, although they were tireless in their efforts to trap the assailant. Even Mr. Disraeli had recently become the victim of an attack.
My wallet.
But now, the scene moves to Chiswick. An amateur cameraman captured this unique piece of evidence in an increasingly bizarre affair. The latest victim was the Dowager Duchess of Arg, in broad daylight, on the towpath of the river. The Duchess was rendered unconscious by a series of gigantic raspberries, and as she lay senseless, the fiend tattooed a raspberry on each of her knees. And he left her drifting helplessly in the Thames. This time, the Home Office stepped in. Scores of suspects were rounded up. Finally, the numbers were whittled down to one man.
Yes. This looks like the man. Sergeant Bowles, will you organise an identity parade?
Sir.
I never did nothing.
Nothing? Nothing? What a terrible way to speak. Where did you go to school?
Arrow.
Come on in. In you come. Is it? Over there.
Sergeant Bowles, are they all genuine passers-by?
No, I got them at Harrods, sir.
Bowles, bring in the Duchess.
Yes, sir.
That's the man.
No, I'm the inspector. Corner of the yard.
Many's the time.
Before we proceed, Your Grace, I understand the fiend tattooed parts of your body. May we see them?
Certainly.
Bowles, assist her, Grace.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Genuine raspberries. When I speak as a gardener. Right in the middle of the knee there, yes. Well, they shall have to be photographed as evidence.
My knees, are they important?
Well, of course they are, my dear. Otherwise your legs wouldn't bend in the middle. Sergeant Bowles, you put them away now.
Sir.
Good. Your Grace, would you choose one of these men from this line here, please?
Just one?
One will be enough.
It's very difficult to tell. Very difficult. They all look so alike. But I can't. But perhaps if I heard the noise once again.
Very well, then. Sergeant Bowles, would you organise a noise test, please? Number one.
Number one.
No.
Number two.
It was a little farther west than that, I think.
Number three.
Definitely not.
Number four.
Not sure.
Number four. Once more.
Oh, really? Oh. This is a gross violation of individual liberty. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear.
In the weeks that followed, the Phantom relentlessly continued his attacks on the aristocracy. Inevitably, the news filtered through to the darkest corners of the far-flung empire, including Buckingham Palace. Tempers were short, nerves were frayed in the royal household. On the morning of November the 12th, Edward VII, then Prince of Wales, was arguing with his royal mother, Queen Victoria.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Edward, sit down. I will not have you disobeying orders. You will stay at home.
Oh, Mamma, why will you never let me do anything? You never allow me to do anything. You treat me as if I were a child. What's the point of being Edward, Prince of Wales, if I'm never allowed to do anything?
Oh, please, Edward, please. What is it you want to do?
I thought I might go out and look for conkers.
No, you will not leave this palace. Not with this terrible phantom gooseberry sucker.
Raspberry blower, Mamma.
Well, whatever it is, it's fruity. And anything fruity is never to be trusted. My dear Albert would have nothing to do with anything fruity.
They named a pear after him.
Well, they named a potato after you. What does that do? Doesn't mean you've got to stuff yourself with chips. Where do you want to go? Why don't you find yourself a nice girl, a nice Jewish girl, bring her home, meet your mother? A little laugh. Let me play a little gin, Ronnie.
Mamma, you're not Jewish.
Not Jewish, not Jewish. What's it make the sorry, Edward. It's the effect of my mixed blood. What were you saying?
The phantom raspberry blower, Mama.
Oh, yes, Mr. Gladstone said it could be almost anybody.
And almost everyone else says it could be Mr. Gladstone.
Nonsense, just because he prowls around late at night talking to ladies of the street. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I think that's what I'll do.
Now, what about this game?
Oh, very well, very well. What do you want?
Go on, bust me for a shilling. I've won your money, come on. Here. Edward, that noise, was that you?
Yes,
You? It can't be.
What do you mean? What are you staring at me like that for, Mama? Answer me. Answer me.
Is it possible? Could it be that our own Edward, Prince of Wales, is the dreaded monster? Someone so near to the dear Queen? If this is so, then nothing at all can stand in the way of the phantom raspberry blower of old London town.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Dixon.
Day after day I'm more confused, but I look for the light through the pouring rain. I know it's a game that I hate to lose. I'm feeling the strain. Ain't it a shame? Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Beginning to think that I'm wasting time, and I don't understand the things I do. The world outside looks so unkind. Now it's up to you to carry me through. Ah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. When my mind is free, you know, melody can move me. And when I'm feeling blue, the guitar's coming through to soothe me. Thanks for the joy that you're giving me. Now I want you to know I believe in the song, the rhythm, the rhyme, and the harmony. You help me along, you're making me strong. Ah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Ah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Ah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in the rock and roll and drift away.
Well, I've seen him.
Yeah, very probably.
I've seen the doctor about my problem.
Suppose he told you to take 2 aspirins and call him in the morning if you weren't feeling any better, eh?
He says the cure for my problem is love.
Well, that's a cure for everybody's problem. You don't need a doctor to tell you that.
He says I need to have love at least 7 times a week.
How many?
7, at least.
Well, put me down for 2.
Now here is the late news. Senator Grunston, a candidate for the United States presidency, complained today that just because he likes to go down to his Carolina poultry farm, help with the harvest, and preserve his beetroots, that doesn't make him a cotton-picking, chicken-plucking pickle dipper.
Complaints were made following the chef's annual fancy dress ball last night. It seems a woman dressed in gooseberries and cream made improper suggestions to a man dressed in cake and sherry. She made a proper fool of herself and got a trifle excited.
And after a marriage lasting only 7 days, a newspaper editor's wife has filed a petition for divorce on the grounds that he is too small a type, she's become bored with his special features, and he refuses to give her a late-night extra.
A man who broke into Bridget Bardot's bedroom and laid his hands on her jewellery has been found guilty, but insane.
Now a sketch featuring Mr. Ronnie Corbett, who this year has made a lot of money on the greyhounds as a jockey.
Four candles.
4 candles. Here you are. 4 candles.
No, 4 candles.
Well, there you are, 4 candles.
No, 4 candles. Handles for forks. Got any plugs?
Plugs?
Yeah.
What kind of plugs?
A rubber one, bathroom.
What size?
13 amp.
Electric bathroom plugs, you call them. Trade, electric bathroom. Right.
Saw tips.
Saw tips. What do you want, ointment or something like that?
No, saw tips, but covering the saws. Tips.
No, we haven't got any. Coming in, but we haven't got any.
Got any hose?
Hose?
Hose. No hose.
Hose? I thought you meant O's. O's. You say O's, you think you said O's. O's, you meant O's.
No hose.
O's? What that? Oh, you mean pantyhose? Pantyhose?
No, hose. Hose for the gate. Mon repose. Hose. Letter O's.
Letter O. many did you want?
2.
2. Right. Yeah, next.
Got any peas?
God's sake, why didn't you bleeding tell me that I'm up the stairs? I'm up the stairs already for that. You can tell me bleeding there. I'm up and down the shop all the time. I've got all the shop up and down any help today. You must tell me when I'm playing anything. I'm playing by How many did you want?
No, tins of peas.
3
tins of peas.
You're having me on, aren't you? You're having me on. There we are. Right.
Pumps.
Pumps?
Pumps.
Hand pumps, foot pumps, come on.
Foot pumps.
Foot pumps, foot pumps. You see your foot pumps? Tidy up in here. There we are.
No, pumps for your feet. Brown pump, size 9.
You are having me on. You are definitely having me on.
Not.
You are.
Washers?
What, windscreen washers, car washers, dishwashers, floor washers, back scrubbers, lavatory cleaners, floor washers?
Half-inch washers.
Oh, tap washers, tap washers.
Yeah.
Look, I've had about enough of this. Give us that list. Make it all myself down here. What's this? What's that? Oh, that does it. That does have it. I've had just about enough of this. Mr. Jones, will you come out and service customer, please? I've just about had enough of this. Look what it's got on there. Look what it's got on there.
Right. How many would you like? 1 or 2?
Thank you very much. Before I start, whatever I'm going to talk about, I must apologise for a joke I'm going to tell you, which is not very funny. So I'll have to ask you to believe that I'm only obeying orders, because if I don't, I could find myself back doing guest appearances on Magic Roundabout. And it can get pretty hot in that Dougal skin. Now, I know what you're thinking. Here he goes, making a feeble excuse to tell another old joke. Actually, I suppose that's a little bit presumptuous of me, because you might be thinking something else altogether. You might be thinking, shall I wear my blue hat when Auntie Ethel is ordained on Friday? Or you might be thinking, when Kojak shaves, where does he actually start? So before you defect to the other side, let me explain that just before the show started, I was having a chat with the producer, Well, to be honest, we all draw lots before the programme, and the loser has a chat with the producer. Makes him feel sort of, part of the team. Anyway, he said to me, what are you doing for your little bit of nonsense? What are you doing for your little bit of nonsense tonight? He's quite educated, but a bit thick. So would you believe that he studied medicine for 4 years and decided it was nasty stuff you take on a spoon? Then he said, why don't you tell that joke I told you about the lady with the little Continental car with the engine in the rear? I said, well, frankly, Terry, I don't really think it's all that funny. He said, well, they loved it at the squash club. He said, they loved it at the squash club. He belongs to this club, Every Saturday night they buy a bottle of squash. He said, if you know what's good for you, you'll do as you're told, he said. Remember, he said, you still have relations in Welwyn Garden City. So I am going to tell you a rather interesting little story about a housewife who has just bought one of those little Continental motor cars. And the first morning, she drives down to the supermarket. And, by the way, that is the only thing I do like about the joke. It's got the sort of common touch, There's a housewife and a small car, a supermarket and a crash, and it's all, No, there isn't. There's nothing like that. Nothing like that in this story. I'm mixing it up, actually, with the one about the lady driver, you know, who knocked over a dog that ran out into the middle of the pavement. Well, I suppose I did. It's natural, really, because I did it because I was a bit upset about my wife getting a summons yesterday for parking on the pavement. A bit upset. Actually, she wasn't parked on the pavement. She was passing a bus on the near side when she ran out of petrol. Anyway, there is our housewife driving down to the supermarket, you see. Vroom, 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 vroom. A little bit of driving there, you know, just gives the story a bit of authenticity. Nothing's too much trouble, you know. If you don't like the joke, you can applaud the effort, can't you? So she pulls up outside the supermarket. Actually, this is not the best chair. It's not the best chair for doing car jokes, because you can't reach the handbrake. Anyway, when she's done her shopping, she comes out, and it won't start. Well, the time she's taken in there, it's probably run out of petrol. So there she is. Chug, 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 chug. Nothing. Oh, dear, she thinks. I knew I should have brought a British car, and not one of these Continentals. Little plug for British exports, you know. There'll be no sleep at British Leylands tonight. So she cleans the wing mirrors, empties the ashtray. Chug, 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 chug. Still nothing. So she says to herself, perhaps it's something to do with the engine, you know. Perhaps the lead has come off the Prudential, or the overdraft is stuck. So she opens the bonnet. Lady down here believes she's got an overdraft. Anyway, of course, she opens the bonnet. Of course, there's nothing in there but a spare wheel. Good heavens, she said. Someone's pinched the engine. Where are the old values, she said. Bring back national service. And what happened to capital punishment? And the crusty white loaf. Now, I don't know why she said that, you know, but she did. And just as she did, another lady who had just parked her own car came over and said, "May I be of some assistance, my dear?" She said. "May I be of some assistance? What seems to be the trouble?" Well, she said, "I've parked my car here while I slipped into the supermarket to get a cod's head for the cat. My husband is thinking of doing a transplant. Upon my return, the car won't start. Well, when I opened the bonnet, there's no engine. Some miscreant has made off with the works." The other lady said, "Well, bless my soul. They'll take anything these days. My husband blames the Labour government. And the free orange juice." She said, "But don't worry, your troubles are over, because my car over there is exactly the same model as this one. And I have a spare engine in the boot. You can have that."
Mrs. Higginbottom come here every morning to look after the band. Scrub the stage and empty out the kettle drums and polish the kettle drums stand.
Rain or shine, we're always at the ready, and we're never lackadaisical or hateful. Where else could you meet so many fellas? We are just a pair of scrubbers who are grateful.
Look at them, they look so charming.
Some of them are quite alarming when they play their obligato.
Half of them are pizzicato. Ronnies like gravel have always quite excited me.
I love to travel. I'm more of a French horn girl, you see. Sun-kissed nights on the Mediterranean.
PLO fights with a randy Romanian. Catching romance when it falls.
In the orchestra stalls.
Me and Mrs. Higginbottom love it when we get put on these orchestra jobs. My first husband used to play the organ, so I've always quite liked twiddling knobs.
I can claim no musical connection though I used to have an uncle in the woodwind.
Oh.
But he would eat radishes for supper and was consequently not a very good wind. Every week, we'd work till Sunday, have it off, then back on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Keeping the performance tidy. Sometimes there are times when I would like a go myself.
I could make music with anyone off the bottom shelf. So when they go for their tea break,
Here's the kind of sound that we make. Let the work go hang while we both have a bang. Camden Town, high-rise flat, so gay.
that's where I met Harry Brown. In a flat in Camden Town.
Tell them, girl, now they're going to pull them down. Oh, what a disgrace.
That's what Harry tried to do, but I slapped his face. Camden Town, my Camden Town. All my childhood dreams, we could live on half a crown. No one seemed to wear a frown. Now you're sad and tumble down, but you'll always be Camden Town, my Camden Town. You are home to me. Well, that's all for this week, but here are 2 items of late news. We've just heard that British Leyland strikers have been fitting silencers to motor horns, and now the cars don't give a hoot either.
And we've heard from a very disappointed guest at the Charles Dickens Society's annual nudist weekend. He had great expectations, but it was a very bleak house, and everybody laughed at his little Dorrit.
That's all we've got time for, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.